Hey everybody, welcome back to Kavanaugh's Corner. Today on the channel we're going to be talking about a highly controversial movie. This is a movie that I've seen a couple times over the years. It seems like every time I watch this movie I have a different opinion of it. It's a very wildly shot and edited movie. There's no other film that has come out of mainstream Hollywood, I think, since this film that is this absolutely bonkers. And I get why it was done that way. The director of this film really took a lot of chances. I give him a lot of credit. And that movie is, of course, Natural Born Killers. This is the Oliver Stone film with Woody Harrelson, Juliette Lewis, Robert Downey Jr., Tom Sizemore, Tommy Lee Jones, just a ton of great actors and actresses, and they are all dialed up to 11 in this film. Some of it is like almost like kabuki theater. It is so like unbelievably overblown, but it's all purposeful. This movie really is a satire of the media in the 90s and the kind of sensational news that was kind of happening at the time. And this movie now, actually, watching it all these years later, this movie really, especially now, this is 30 years after this movie's come out, it makes more sense now than it did when it came out. I think this movie was really reviled by a lot of people when it came out. Now I watch it and I totally get what they were going for. Whether or not that point is successful really depends on the viewer, but it's a pretty brutal movie. It's really graphically violent at times, but I really love the way this movie looks. There aren't many other movies out there that look like Natural Born Killers, so I give a lot of credit to Oliver Stone and director of photography Robert Richardson, who really went crazy with this movie. When I saw that it was going to be coming out in 4K with Dolby Vision, an all-new 4K scan of the original camera negative, I had to get this. This came out a little while ago, and for one reason or another, I just didn't pick it up right away. But I got it now, and this is a 3-disc set, so today we're going to be talking about the picture quality, the audio quality, and the special features on here, because this actually does come with a ton of special features. So we're going to just jump right into it here. Again, this is the 4K disc that we're talking about here when I talk about picture quality and audio quality. The 4K disc has an all-new 4K transfer, as I mentioned. It does have Dolby Vision as well as HDR10 compatibility. And this movie, for those of you that have not seen it, it has 18 different film formats that went into this film. There's black and white. They use 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter, 35 millimeter in different film stocks. There's Betamax tape, videotape. There is all sorts of different formats that went into this, and I quite literally mean 18. And the movie is just so all over the place and crazy. I really wanted to see what this would look like in native 4K with that HDR and everything. And I'm very happy to report that this movie looks absolutely stunning. It is shockingly amazing looking. The colors in this film are so incredibly vibrant. They are saturated at times to like the nth degree. Now, normally I would complain about that, but that's kind of how this movie is supposed to look. It is overblown, it's wild, it's just completely insane. And it works. It totally works for this film. There are a couple scenes in particular that I can think of off the top of my head that really blew me away. One of which is the scene where Mickey and Mallory go into this pharmacy, and the entire pharmacy is lit in this like neon lime green color. Again, I have no explanation for this, but the entire thing is in neon lime green. And that green now is like burn your retinas out bright. It's so green. I mean, it's this wild shade of green. And I remember seeing this movie on Blu-ray years ago, probably about 15 years ago or so now, maybe more than that. And seeing that green then was kind of like, wow, that's really garish. Now you see it, and it's just like a shock to the system, which is really this whole movie. I mean, honestly, there are a lot of scenes that are now much more brighter than they were before. The black levels in this film are there's not a ton of darker scenes, but the darker scenes do look much better now than they did before. Black levels are massively improved on this disc, as well as detail level. I mean, the detail level on this film has also skyrocketed with this new transfer. You can see little beads of sweat on characters' faces. Blood is just so plentiful in this film. It's a very bloody film. But those scenes now, the reds just jump right out at you. Red is definitely a color that is seen a lot in this film. And those subliminal shots of like demons and stuff are so crystal clear now. It's actually kind of scary at times when those little cuts come in. It's such an intense movie at times. Other times it's kind of funny. But the satirical, dark nature of this film really hangs with you, and this new transfer just delivers on every front. There is a lot of grain in the picture on this, and so if you are not a fan of film grain, because this was shot almost 95% on film, there are shots that were done on, I mentioned, like Betamax and like VHS, like videotape. But those shots now are clearer than they were before, but those artifacts from the different film types and even film stocks are very much intact. There is no noise reduction, no digital noise reduction at all that I could see on this new transfer. The black and white sequences are very, very grainy. And I do want to say that when I started doing some research into this film, I actually found that there was a lot of post-production grain that was put into those black and white sequences to make it even grittier than they already were. So the grain in some of this film is actually manufactured, so it's supposed to look that way. And when those shots, when those scenes and those shots change from that beautiful, vibrant, smooth color, like 35 millimeter color, to like that 16 or 8 millimeter Super 8, like black and white, it's jarring, and it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like that. So again, if you're a grain hater, you are really not gonna like this movie. But I will say that the grain is much lighter in those 35 millimeter segments, and the picture overall is just shockingly beautiful to look at, even though this movie is pretty hard to watch at times. There is some really nasty stuff that happens in this movie, but I find it entertaining to just try to keep up with all the different styles that they used for this film. It really is unbelievable. Now, in terms of audio quality, the audio quality on this is pretty fantastic too. So the 4K disc does come with a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 and a stereo track. The stereo track is the original theatrical audio. Now, for this case, I ended up watching it in the 5.1. And the 5.1 on this is actually really fantastic. I noticed the sound effects, which this movie has a ton of, are very well placed. The little random subliminal sounds that are thrown all throughout the film are crystal clear. The dialogue is crystal clear. The music in this movie is really something else. And all the different music that was used throughout the film sounded fantastic. I had no issues with the audio whatsoever. I really actually enjoyed it. And the other thing that's actually something to note with this new 4K disc is that the end of the film, there's a montage of all these different news events, kind of, again, reinforcing that satirization of the sensational news that was kind of starting out in the 90s. Now it's kind of commonplace. But the song that was used at the end was a song called Burn by Nine Inch Nails. And I have actually not, up until now, seen a version of this movie with that song in that end montage. And this actually restores that song. Due to a rights issue, it had to be removed from a lot of previous iterations of this film, even in the director's cut version. And that now has been restored, and it sounds great. One little note, the director's cut is the only version that's on 4K in this. It's my preferred version. Again, there are some really nasty, brutal things that have been restored in that version, but it is the intended original cut of the film that Oliver Stone wanted to make before they had to cut out 4 minutes of footage and God knows how many shots and little clips that they had to cut out. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was edited out for this film to make it an R rating, and the director's cut is unrated, so just keep that in mind. If you haven't seen this film, get ready for a ride. So, but yeah, that 4K disc on this was excellent. I highly, highly recommend it just on the picture and audio quality alone. Now, the second disc in this set is the director's cut on standard Blu-ray. It is a new scan of the original camera negative, but there's just no HDR or anything. It's just a standard Blu-ray. However, there are a ton of new special features on that disc. There is a new interview with editor Hank Corwin, one of the editors on the film. This movie is probably one of the true masterpieces of editing, and Hank Corwin is one of the people to thank for that. So that's a really interesting watch. There is also another interview with producer Clayton Townsend, who talks at length about the making of the film and the preparation that went into making the film, and a couple other really kind of funny stories. There is also a new interview with Gordon Smith, who did some of the special effects for the film. That's an interesting little interview that he gives, kind of talking about working with Oliver Stone and how he was not really doing a lot of effects on this film, but he kind of supervised a lot, which was interesting. And there's actually the best one out of all of them. There's also an interview with cinematographer Robert Richardson. And Richardson really, I think, has the best interview out of all of them because he talks about all the different ways that they shot the film. He talks about the improvisation that went into shooting the film. He also references his work with Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese, who have very different styles than Oliver Stone. So that's really interesting. Now, the third disc on here is the theatrical cut of the film on Blu-ray. Now, it doesn't seem that that version is restored at all. That's just kind of the same transfer I think we've had all along, but you do get it on here, and you do get a audio commentary by Oliver Stone on there. The 4K disc and the Blu-ray of the director's cut also has commentary by Oliver Stone as well. And that third disc also has a making-of featurette that's about 16 minutes long. It has a documentary about how the film would kind of go about things now, called NBK Evolution. That's a little under half an hour. And then there is another documentary called Chaos Rising, the storm around natural-born killers, which is kind of like the aftermath and the reactions that the film got. That's about a half an hour. There are 6 deleted scenes with introductions from Oliver Stone and an alternate ending with an introduction from Oliver Stone, and the theatrical trailer is also on that third disc. So pretty stacked set here. 3 discs, 2 Blu-rays, 1 4K. I mean, it's a pretty impressive set here from Shout Factory. They did a really great job with this. That new transfer on the 4K disc is absolutely incredible. Picture quality is shockingly incredible to look at, even though the movie is kind of hard to watch at times. So what I'd say is, if you're a fan of this film, then you are going to absolutely love this new 4K release. I really enjoyed it, even though it's definitely not my favorite Oliver Stone film. My favorite one we actually reviewed a couple weeks ago. That's JFK. But this film here, again, astonishingly well done. Shocking stuff that's in this. But it's an entertaining watch, I have to say. As much as I don't want to admit it, it is unbelievable to look at. So definitely pick this up on 4K if you are a fan of this film. It's Shout Select number 147. I'll leave a link in the description below to Amazon, so in case you want to pick this up on 4K, you can use that link and I get some kickback here on the channel. It really helps me out because I was not sent this film. I purchased this film with my own money. And I love reviewing physical media for you guys. Physical media is very, very important to me. So if you are a fan of physical media, definitely hit that subscribe button below and hit that thumbs up button as well if you enjoyed this review. Until next time, I just want to wish you all the very best. Please stay safe and take it easy.